Hey, it's me, and I am back with this week's episode of Entrepreneurial Thinkers, which is deeply personal for me. It's a rare occasion that I get to talk to someone on this show as a guest about some really important and interesting topics that I've known for as long as I've known this guest, Rich Fleischman from Haynie Company. And yes, if you're used to hearing the name Haynie Company, they are indeed one of our founding sponsors that helped me to be here, to be able to produce the work that Deanna and I do for you on a weekly basis. And I'm super grateful for the conversation that Rich and I had, because he helps us to break down the mythology around kind of the boring, numbers crunching, nerdy accountants in our lives as business people, as entrepreneurs, as executives, as leaders. The truth is, our CPAs, our accountants that are in our lives, are hugely invaluable resources. And what Rich tries to explain to us and helps us to understand is that as we build our businesses, as we grow our organizations, as we build our companies to become the dreams that we have about what's possible, our accountants can be vitally important relationships for us to have, to rely upon, to trust for their advice, their guidance, their wisdom, as well as their tactical compliance and kind of task-driven, outcome-based work that they do for us. So we explore all that while also exploring the context of just how the world of CPA firms is evolving and changing and shifting to become more entrepreneurial in their own way, that they grow their practices and wind up growing and providing business services to the rest of us. So again, a really, really fun opportunity to have a conversation with a longtime trusted friend and ally in everything that I've done professionally over the last 25 some odd years, probably. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as Rich and I did making it for you.
We are so grateful to be supported by these community champions: Sales MD, Team Friday, Realist Lab, Kiana Patterson, Diego Chavez, Jer Boucher, Heather Ryder, Janine Sua, Lily Roca, and Steve Kernan.
Hola, hello, hi, bienvenido, and welcome back, or welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. As you may or may not know, this is the show where I get to have weekly conversations with some of the best and brightest entrepreneurial thinkers across all sectors and segments of society and industry as we come together to try to understand the world a little bit better, and then in hopes from that to try to leave the world a little bit better than we found it before we started this conversation. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by a great friend, my friend, Richard Fleischman, who's a partner at Haynie Company and one of our founding sponsors on this show, by the way. Always so grateful for that. Let me tell you a little bit about Rich before we welcome him to the show. Rich is someone I've considered a really, really close friend, a trusted advisor for, it seems like half my life, maybe 20 years or so. For a stretch, he has been one of my, as a fun word I wrote when I wrote in the script, my most trusted consiglieres. We don't use that word very often anymore, so I had to put that in the script. He spent his entire career inside the financial engine rooms of companies across the world. As his reputation with his clients and his teammates bear out, though, he's much more than an accountant. He's a business strategy and a growth thinker with just the right amount of conservative streak operationally and financially to make sure that he asks the right questions of his clients that help keep those clients on the smart, stable business path. He's audited casinos in Macau, tech companies in Denver, manufacturers and professional or sports organizations all across the U.S., you name it, and he has helped businesses from scrappy startup to global enterprises to navigate the maze of SEC reporting and financial thinking. He's really a unique blend of domestic and globally experienced professional. It combines with his human relationship-driven approach to his work. It's always given Rich a real curiosity-driven view of how business and how the people who lead businesses work. In today's landscape of ever-changing economics and regulatory upheaval, Rich's mastery of the human nuance as well as regulatory frameworks serves his clients extremely well. He's the person that company leaders want to call on the weekends, although I'm sure he prefers that they don't, when the numbers get really complicated and the stakes get really high. But most importantly, what grounds him is he's an incredible dad, a great husband, a loyal friend, a Broncos fan, and a live music fan any chance he gets. And he's my favorite numbers cruncher who's joining us today from Denver, Colorado. Rich Fleischman, buddy, it's great to have you. Welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Very happy to be here.
Thanks for hanging out with us. This show has been a long time in the making. You are dropping in the middle of kind of like a series inside of our show in which I'm talking to what I like to think is maybe more practical leaders in the business world that we play in, right? So I'm talking to guys like you, lawyers, brand builders, marketers, to try and kind of end the year by giving our audience of entrepreneurial thinkers and aspiring entrepreneurial thinkers kind of some more practical takeaways on how the mechanics of the industry that we all play in really work. So I'm super excited to have this conversation with you. So thanks again, buddy. I'm going to hit you with one opening question to get us started, and then we're going to drop into a cool conversation that's going to cover a whole range of topics. First things first, though, so many folks, when they hear accounting, right, they think boring, nerdy, numbers crunchers, and they think about it as like an expense on the bottom line of their business. I'd love for you to tell me why today's modern CPA firm, like a Haynie Company, but in general, is much more of kind of a business strategy consultancy and accountancy for its clients, and is much more of an investment in the growth of their business as opposed to just being a financial accounting firm.
So the reputation for accountants is that we are compliance based. And so therefore we're necessary evil. And that's the case when you talk about getting your taxes done, just getting an audit, things like that. But accountants are so much more. We're trusted business advisors first and foremost. That is one of the main focuses of Haney. We don't just go in and kill the dead horse. We're there to actually help you understand why the horse happened the way or passed away, that why they actually passed away the way they did, or why that horse came back to life for some reason. From the tax side, accountants are that's our main focus for tax accountants, is to do compliance, but more importantly, we're there to save you money. We're there to help you plan and strategize for the future. From the auditor side, that which is the I guess the sandbox I play in, we're we're supposed to be independent. So there's only so much we can really do, but the end result of every audit is that we're going to have suggestions for you. We're going to have ways to make things better. We're going to be there to help you save money. I once was in a program and they talked about, what kind of problems do accountants cause? Well, the best one is that you've got too much money. You don't know what to do with it.
That's a good problem to have.
And that's a good problem to have. We are solution oriented. Haynie Company in particular has a number of different services that we provide where we do, in fact, really actually get to help people. We're not just there to fill your compliance needs, which is where the expense conversation comes in.
Right.
But if at the end of the day, you're in compliance, you don't have a headache, you don't have a hassle, we've already saved you money. Yeah. I mean, if you file with the SEC and you don't get any notices or anything else because it was done right the first time, we've saved you money in the long run.
Right, by doing it right the first time. I love that. That's a great way to think about it.
And the other way, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you teased Haney a little bit. We're gonna talk a bit more about that later in the show, so that we can kind of break down a lot of the different pieces and parts so that people can understand it. But please go ahead.
So one of the things that we as CPAs also do is we are partners with your other service providers, your other advisors. We are not just working in our own little bubble. We're not on a cloud up in space or anything else. We are literally in conversations with, whether it's an investment banker, your attorneys, your financial advisors. So, do we set up a 401k plan for our employees? Do we have what do we do to protect our own interests? Things like that. So it's not, we don't just work in a bubble. Yeah. We try to be there for the organization itself.
The whole everything you just said is such a perfect segue to the next question. You'll see in these next two questions, kind of take it from two different points of view. So we've known each other a long time, and lots has changed from the start of your career. So if we could, thinking about it from the entrepreneurs, from the executives, the client standpoint, right? Like you've just outlined a bunch of the value proposition of a full service firm like the one you work with. So how can we teach, or what can we teach the entrepreneurs and the executives that are listening, that they can think differently about how to work with their CPAs, or what to look for in their CPA firms, as far as like what you can do for them today? How is that different today than say it was at the very beginning of your career, a long time ago?
Well, first and foremost, a long time ago in my career, I didn't know anything. So, you know,
None of us did.
I,
None of us did.
I knew enough to be dangerous, at least. But more importantly, as the financial world has evolved, um, and Rob, I think it's been a lot longer than 20 years.
I know.
um,
So do I.
but over the years, we are, as accountants, we're far more regulated. So therefore, we are prohibited from doing certain things, in particular for public companies versus private companies. Um, so my background was I learned how to draft financial statements because I was the staff person in audits, and that's what you did. Now it's if you do public company work, you don't get to draft the financials. You're just reading them, reviewing them, making sure the numbers are correct, things like that. The technology change has been enormous. I used
Yeah.
to, and Rob, I don't know if you ever saw me when I would go out to California for audits, but we had these audit trunks that you could probably fit two bodies in.
Holy cow.
Um, and we would ship them out every time we went on audit. Sometimes we had 3 or 4 audits going on at once. We had 3 or 4 of these trunks.
Wow.
And these were our audit work papers. They weighed a ton. And now everything fits on our laptops. And it's been like that for quite some time, but that is one of the biggest changes. Um, the approach to being an accountant overall, being a CPA, is much more consultative than it's ever been.
Okay.
So, um, I would prefer that a client feel free to give me a call and say, "Hey, we're thinking about this transaction. What do you think? Where are some of the pitfalls? What's some of the disclosure requirements for my financial statements? How do I calculate this?" All those things really, you know, it gives us an opportunity to advise you to do it the right way, and which makes our lives easier. And also it helps you overall. I mean, we're saving you money if you do it the right way first.
Yeah.
Um,
So
we
if I'm taking a little bit away from that, there's a combination of things going on. One, if you're looking for, or considering or reviewing different CPA firms to work with, like look for that type of personality, look for someone who fits with you, look for that trusted advisor type of potential relationship. And if you're working with one currently, like lean into that. Don't be afraid to share more information, to ask for greater context, to build that relationship. Don't just think that your CPA firm audit team or your tax team, that they just want to sit off in the bubble in the corner and just wait to do that transaction for you. Like, in the more that the executive or the entrepreneur pulls you in as a partner in the process, the earlier on, the more likely you are to be able to help them to have a successful set of transactions or outcomes.
That's exactly correct. One of the things I would caution companies and entrepreneurs is talk to your CPA first about how they approach billing with it and everything else, because you don't want surprises. And we as CPAs don't want to be the surprise, because then all of a sudden our relationship is more about money than it is about working together, and we both succeed that way.
Yeah.
So, that's something that, if you have a short question, most CPAs, most attorneys will give you the time of day for a little bit. Maybe Probably attorneys charge. The CPAs might not. We're more afraid to bill than the
Yeah.
attorneys.
I'll
But
ask the attorneys I have coming on the show in the next couple of weeks.
yeah, they'll tell you. But this way you understand the scope of what we think we're supposed to do. We understand the scope from your perspective. And so there, it's all about communication. It's communication style. One of the biggest complaints I hear about other CPAs is that, well, they don't call me. They don't call me back quickly. I've got an issue and I can't seem to find my CPA. And we actually picked up some work very recently, specifically because of that.
Wow.
We were the first to call back, and we were the first ones there.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference as well. And so when you're discussing this with your CPAs, make sure that you're on the same page, not just with what the question is, but what the whole project might entail.
Yeah, talk about as early on as you can. Talk about what that working relationship is going to be like. What are the boundaries? What are the expectations, etc.
Right. And for me, I'd prefer that the clients feel free to give me a call. And if it's something that's more than 45 minutes, an hour, I will say, I've got some research to do. I expect it's going to take me 3 hours. That's going to be X number of dollars. And this way we're all up front. Or I can send you links to the things I know are going to be helpful, and you can learn how to do it and come back to me with the answer.
Yeah.
When it comes to public companies, that's kind of a requirement.
Right.
We have to we can't tell you what to do.
Yeah. No,
exactly. But with private companies, we're not telling you what to do. We're advising. Here are some choices. Here are some things to consider, things like that. Here's the research. Here's what we would suggest.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Haynie Company. We all know that in today's complex financial landscape, having a trusted advisor can make all the difference. Since 1960, Haney Company has been providing comprehensive accounting services to a diverse range of clients, from small businesses to large corporations. With nearly 400 professionals across 13 locations, they offer services in tax, audit, business consulting, and client advisory. In fact, their commitment to excellence has earned them recognition from Accounting Today and Forbes magazines. At Haney Company, though, it's not just about balancing books. It's about building lasting relationships based on trust and mutual growth. So visit HaneyCPAs.com. That's HaneyCPAs.com to learn how they can support your business's financial journey. I love that. All right, so let's flip the script. Let's look now from the inside of the big CPA firm in the modern world versus where it was 20 or 30 years ago, right? How do the executive partners at these big firms, like the one you work at is mid-sized. There are some huge ones in the world, and there's some small ones, right? But how do the average CPAs think differently about how they organize themselves as firms nowadays, or how they market themselves as firms versus how they did at the beginning of your career? Has that changed too? Is there still did there used to be like a big audit box, and now there used to be a marketing box, and now there's not?
Well, it's definitely changed. I in my career, a big part of it was that the work was just there. There was just such a high need. The competition was tough because, one firm would say that's going to cost $10,000. The next firm's going to say it's going to cost $40,000. How do you know who's correct? Who's going to bill me more overall? Is the $10,000 firm buying the work and then trying to upsell me and all those things? And is a $40,000 firm overcharging me, or are they in the right spot to begin with? The way that we approach working with clients, marketing to potential client groups, going on sales calls, and all three are very, very different. Certainly, you market to your existing clients because you want them to feel good about their choice and everything else. You market to the rest of the world in a way. You get the name out, you get your logo, things like that.
Yep.
And those things make a difference. But you're also marketing to your potential employees and your employees. The most important client of a CPA firm is not the one that pays the bills. It's your internal clients. It
Okay.
is your staff. It is your seniors, your managers, your other partners. It's if they're not happy, they're not doing the work well. If they're not doing the work well, the client's not being served well.
I love
It's
that.
all about how all those pieces fit together. That wasn't always the attitude for a CPA firm.
Okay.
CPA firm was you burn them and churn them. You know,
That's great.
I, I've worked 90-hour weeks. I don't work 90-hour weeks, and I would never ask a staff person or anyone that I work with
Yeah.
to work those kind of hours.
The best news of that from an entrepreneur standpoint, from a business owner standpoint, right, is it seems that it has created a better alignment with the client, as you say, right? So as it just in those two conversational pieces we just had there, we found out this is not only the best way for clients to engage with their CPAs, but CPA firms have evolved in the modern day to better prepare themselves to engage with clients in that healthier, longer term relationship. I love that.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that one of the biggest focuses is that work-life balance.
yeah,
And it we used to be able to accommodate whatever the client's needs were. The client got to the office at 4 in the morning and worked until 6 at night. We were right there with them.
yeah.
Um, and then we'd go back to the hotel and work some more.
Yeah,
That's
right.
what
Yeah.
we do.
Actually do your
But
actual work. Yeah.
but now we've got a healthy respect for our clients' time, and our clients have a much healthier respect for our time, as well as for our staff time. Our all of our team members. One of the great things that I love about what my firm does is we don't track your time off.
Okay.
It's unlimited time off, but within reason, obviously.
Of course.
If it's middle of February, March, and it's our busy season, kind of expect you not to take that 2 week Bora Bora vacation.
Right. Right.
However, if it's during the summer, that's fine. Um,
I love that.
we,
There's a trust of, hey, you're professionals. We're going to treat you like professionals. We're going to expect you're going to treat us professionally. You're going to do the work as long as we create the outcomes for the clients, and we're all in alignment. We trust you.
yeah, and it's a two-way street. We spend a lot of time communicating with our staff. So we've got weekly meetings, we've got monthly meetings, we've got bi-weekly meetings, and they all serve a purpose. Meetings are not always the easiest thing because every entrepreneur knows I simply don't have time for all the meetings I should be taking or should have. Um, we do the same thing. We
Yeah.
basically, but it's everything is about communication. If there's anything that we've really gotten value out of over the years, are how to use communication tools, whether it's text, phone calls, emails, team meetings, instant messenger type things. All those kind of fall in line, but you have to use them correctly. The client only wants certain types of contacts. Your staff don't want to always be in constant contact, but it's important that you're communicating not just, the work's almost done.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the expectations, and so that's something that we set right from the start with an audit or anything else is here's our timeline, here's our expectations, here are the tools we use, and we think that you're going to like using them as well because they're so easy and every other client loves them.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So we switch gears. But it's so much about communication.
No, fully. I'm actually, you teased something that I was going to talk about a little bit later, but I'm going to pull it up and talk about it now, because you mentioned it loosely in there, right? I think oftentimes clients don't necessarily think of their CPA as like being a partner in a business, right? And oftentimes you and I've talked about it, right? Like you have to function as much, you already said it, like salesman or entrepreneur, owner of your own, here's an old phrase from an old salesman, book of business, right? Like so you have to function like that in your own life, in addition to the tactical project oriented work and outcomes that you create. Like, what's that business development, sales, relationship side of life as a partner like? And then follow on with that, you can take this any way you like, is like, if you've always been comfortable in that role, like having to bring in new business, having to bring in new clients.
Well, the current, I guess, current landscape is most firms you still have a book of business. You know, you're expected to manage or bring in a certain amount of work. There's no like set number. You know, it sure would be nice if you grew your practice 30% every year, but let's be realistic. So one of the things that again that I think that we're not unique, but we have a strategy philosophy about this is that you want to bring in the good work. You want to bring in A and B clients. You don't want C and D clients.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a C and D client, um, you want to bring them up. You want to train them. You want them to be a better client. It helps you and it helps them. Um, I was not by any stretch of the word able to be a salesperson. Um, I actually, and I'll plug them a little bit, but I went to something called, well, first of all, I was a complete introvert. I would get in the corner with my suit and tie on and my slightly balding head and my very worried look on my face, and I'd be afraid to talk to anyone. As soon as someone came up to me, I'd go to shake my hand. My hand would be clammy and wet, and it was. I felt awful about it. The person who shook my hand certainly wasn't comfortable, and so it took me a long, long time. But I went to something called the Rainmaker Academy.
Hmm.
And basically, what the Rainmaker Academy does is it teaches accountants how to sell. It's less about marketing, though there's a marketing aspect to it, but it is sales and sales accountability and tracking your sales and all of those things, and then teaching whatever you've learned to other people. So instantly, you are now in front of other people speaking. And you're doing public speaking because that was part of the requirement. You are coming up with sales pitches. You are coming up with elevator pitches. Even though like, it's a very entrepreneurial, old school way of thinking,
Yeah.
those 30-minute pitches or 30-second pitches are pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You know, tell me about what you do and how you do it. I cause money problems. What do you mean? You'll have so much money you won't know what to do with it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's where I learned that one. And then I got sent to Asia by myself
You did.
and had to be in Hong Kong and Macau fairly often. Stayed in a one room hotel, had my four walls around me. Um, and I just kind of put myself out there. I went and found some live music.
Yeah.
That got me comfortable just being outside the hotel. And then I went to a pub and watched American football.
Yeah.
And there were Americans there, there were British there, there were
Well,
Germans there.
I remember all these stories.
Yeah. And so for me, that really opened up my mind to being able to talk to people. And I came out of my shell.
Yeah.
And now some people say, well, he won't shut up. So
That's
this
why
is
that's
kind
why I
of,
had you on the podcast.
yeah, I figured, we've got what, 4 more hours? But I
That's it.
mean
See,
that
now you're completely out. You're this version of French versus that other version of French.
Right. So this kind of who I became over the years, and I'm very comfortable with it. One of my main goals, my main tasks is mentoring.
Hmm.
And you know, we don't quite have a very formal program yet, but we're working towards that. That's one
Okay,
of the
so
things that
inside the firm to mentor
inside the
other.
firm. So I
Okay,
have a few mentees that I currently work with, you know, some closer than others. Some of them have other mentors as well. Um, but I think it really makes a difference. I was talking with one of my partners who I actually had hired out of college years and years and years ago, and it's amazing watch having watched him evolve. And he was not the shy, quiet accountant from like after maybe 6 months of working with him, I said, "You're going to be a rainmaker. You're going to bring in so much business. We won't know what to do with you." And I was right.
yeah.
And he has been so successful. He is mentoring as well. But when I first hired him, he went and actually hired his own professional mentor. So
Okay,
as a uh, young entrepreneur, an older entrepreneur, anything in between, if you need the help, you can find it in the best of places and the worst of places, but you
yeah,
can find it. Sometimes it
yeah.
costs money. Sometimes you just have someone who you converse with so much that it just feels good.
No, I
Um,
love that. I'll inject a personal story here too as well, and I think not everybody would necessarily get this right away, but as you became this version of yourself, as you say, and then as you pour back into those around you internally on your teams, wherever you've been working, the reality is those skills also then get applied to your client relationships. I've experienced this firsthand. I've seen it, and it's not like a younger, older thing or more experience. It's just you have become very adept at, and I say this like the loosest version of this word, like mentoring your clients essentially in a way to get them to the best outcomes or the best places that they tell you they're trying to go, right? Like you become very good at kind of like navigating, helping people to say, oh, you said you wanted to do this. Okay, well, trust me. Like I know how to get you there. And then you really you take an interest in the person and you kind of bring people along to increased knowledge, greater perspective, more confidence, like deeper awareness about the nuances of what goes on the accounting side of their business. And it's apparently a skill. I mean, it's a gift that you give it away in the way that you do as a human, but it's a skill that you clearly developed that you didn't always necessarily have. So that's a great testament to your career arc.
so what one of the things I think that really works with that, and it's not going to be apparent from this conversation, is that you have to shut up and listen. You
This
can't
this
be thinking about what
this is
the
a podcast interview. This is a very different kind of conversation.
exactly. So I can't apply it here, but you can for a little bit.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, like listeners and viewers, listeners don't see this, but the viewers who watch the show on our YouTube channel will see that I've developed a device this year, like a personal little tick of my own to help me become a better listener and not like roll over our guests conversationally like I might if we were sitting at a bar or a coffee shop. And it's this right here. It's when I put my hand when I rest my head in my hand, which in normal circumstances would be disrespectful or just like unprofessional. The reality is here, it's me just kind of honing in on, okay, I'm just listening to what he's saying now. I queued him up and I'm letting him tell the story, which you are doing terrifically today.
So thank you. I appreciate that because that boy was I nervous. But one of the things that the shut up and listen part, it is so powerful because you don't think about the next thing that you're going to say. You're not thinking about, well, how do I respond to that issue or that problem? You're actually you're able to diagnose things a lot better because you're not there for yourself. You're there
Yeah.
for the client. You're there for whoever, maybe it's a staff person, another partner, whoever it is, a friend, another trusted advisor. You're there for them to be able to solve their own problems. You know,
Yep.
I can help you. And certainly, from our own experience, you see how I'm able to extract out of your own thoughts and all the jumble that's in your head, how to get it on paper, how to get it linear. And, as an accountant, things have to make sense to me. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I do.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Chisos Capital. Everyone knows that raising capital is hard. And frankly, finding the next pool of entrepreneurs to get access to as limited investors is sometimes impossible too. Do you have a big idea, a dream you're building, but you're struggling to find early funding? Well, Chisos is changing the game for founders, creators, athletes, and investors. Whether you're launching a startup, growing your creative brand, or training for the big leagues, Chisos backs you. Chisos uniquely invests up to $100,000 in people, not just products, whether they be entrepreneurs, creators, or even athletes. With their unique CISA model, convertible income share agreements, founders get flexible funding without giving up equity or ownership, and investors get attractive returns and great upside with less risk. Chisos works for both investors and the people bringing our world to life. If you're seeking access to a truly diverse pool of deals, or you're someone who feels overlooked by the VC game, Chisos is ready to back you. So apply now at chisos.io.
I love that. And it's again, I can attest to it from the inside. It's absolutely true. It's funny. You keep tying these things together beautifully. You're an excellent podcast guest, my friend. So one of we've talked a lot about relationships. We teased something in the beginning about collaborating with other trusted advisors. And then you just said it again, right? That's another one of those relationships to build. So I want to talk about that. You know that inside of our community here on the podcast and in my general life network that I'm friends with or collaborators with, lots and lots of like venture capital and private equity investors and lawyers, right? I've collected them over the course of the years and I can't seem to get rid of them, right? And so I'm curious, talk to me about how you in your role, right? How do you leverage those relationships with those type of people to help you grow your own business? So let's not talk so much about the client for a second. Back to Rich building his part of the practice. How do you leverage those relationships with the VCs, the private equity guys, or the lawyers to try and develop your own growth?
So probably the most important thing is when you get introduced to those relationships. So let's say I have a client and they make widgets because, that's what accountants go right to. It's got to be a widget. Because, well, I have no idea. It's what some accounting professor in the 50s came up with.
Yes.
So this client that makes widgets wants to raise money and go public. So we get hired independent of everybody else. The investment banker gets hired separately. The attorney gets hired separately. The person who does the accounting prep work gets hired separately. And all of a sudden, you put all these egos into a room because the client certainly has an ego because they make the best widgets in the world and they feel like they should have $100 billion valuation. The guy who can go and raise that $100 billion, well, he certainly has an ego because he knows he's going to succeed and all those things. The attorneys know everything that they need to know. So everybody's in that room. They're all experts.
Yeah.
And no matter what, you've got to play as a team. If the attorneys don't like the accountants, there's a problem. So you build those relationships within the group. The best way to be successful with continuing to build those relationships is either A, the client sings your praise, or if you've been referred to the client from someone else, let's say an investment banker, the client doesn't complain at all.
Okay.
Because then you're doing your job. Sometimes as auditors, we're just in the background. We're just the background noise. The attorneys drive the process and everything else. the accountants typically drive the timing. And so when it comes to reputation, everything else, assuming everything is good and clean, everything else, you can, in fact, drive that process in the background.
Okay.
But it is definitely going to be the attorneys and the investment bankers that are going to drive the process. They're the conductors. They're the ones that are saying, all right, we got to go a little bit faster. We've got to get this to market by X,
Yeah.
and that makes a big difference in performing what you say that you're going to do. So, keeping that expectation gap as small as possible.
Yeah.
I tell you it's going to be $50 to $100,000, and you hear 50, I hear 100. But if along the way we communicate, we say, okay, we just passed that $50,000 threshold. Here's what's left to do. Here's what we estimate it will cost. Or if things are not as clean or not as expected, being able to communicate that and not just wait until the end of the day and then the bill comes and everybody's pissed off because
Yeah.
I'm pissed off because you don't want to pay me. You're pissed off because I'm charging more than you expected. So
I'm curious. Sorry to interrupt. I'm curious on these relationships. It sounds like you find yourself in circumstances where the client, whether it's a new client or it's an existing client, right? Like they have these relationships. And so you may meet these investors or these lawyers through the engagement. Are there circumstances ever then where, like, let's pretend like I was a lawyer on a project and you come in as the audit team and we meet each other for the first time. Is that the kind of thing then later where I might, with other clients of mine, say, hey, you know what? Oh, like, you need a great audit team. Like, hey, I met this guy, Rich, and his team on this other project. I had never known him before then, but like, wow, like they were excellent. We should like, you should interview them. So is that kind of how it happens? Or do you have like a cadre of like, these are my 4 or 5 best friend lawyers and best friend investors, and we just swap business with each other?
can I just say yes?
Yeah. Okay.
Because
Yes.
it
Yes
is
to all of that.
it is definitely both. So years ago, I was introduced to a client. We got the work, and we met his investment banker team. We met his attorney team, and they were the best source of referrals that I could ever have imagined. I think
Awesome.
in 1 year we generated almost $1 million of business from them, and this is
Wow.
for a small CPA firm that probably was doing $1.5 million at the time, and to go to $2.5 million over a year's
Huge.
period it's tremendous, and that reputation of getting it done, working with the team, all those things made a difference. Once those cogs didn't quite fit anymore, then you have to kind of recover those relationships.
Okay.
Because sometimes
Sure.
it's not going to be you, it's going to be one of your partners. It could be a staff
Right.
person who clearly screwed up. And therefore, if the staff person screws up, the partner screwed up, which means the firm screwed up. So these are things that you learn over the years how to build and maintain those relationships.
Yeah, that's terrific.
And a lot of it has to do with your integrity, but it really has to do with how you service your clients and service your internal clients, like I mentioned earlier. I think that makes a big difference.
You're doing pretty damn well for the nervous, shy guy sitting in the corner of the room who didn't want to say anything to anybody. All right, so let's do this. Let's talk. We're going to talk about your current firm, Haney. I'm going to say a little bit first, just because it's a chance to reinforce what I said in the intro, which is I've been super grateful to have Haney as a founding sponsor of these conversations that we produce every week for basically just about the last year. I've learned a lot about the firm in that process and in the relationship. It's a firm that prides itself on holding to its family values. Its values are around family and trust. The firm's been around since 1960. I mean, it's older than I am. And this is, and it seems to have held to these values, even if it's grown to like hundreds and hundreds of partners, multiple states, multiple city offices. What is it about? Two questions for you. Like, what is it about Haney? You've worked at a lot of different firms over the course of your career. What is it about Haney that makes it such a great partner for its clients? And then if we can play like, prognosticator, kind of how do you see the firm continuing to evolve, but stick to its principles over the next 65 years?
Well, it's pretty interesting. I just got back from San Diego. We had a partner retreat. There are now 60 partners, and we're about 425 people in 15 or 16 cities. I've lost track, but and 7 states. So we've expanded our footprint, but we're doing it the right way. We're if we acquire another firm, they're additive to our business, our existing business, or it's a different business line. So there's something that would be additive for our client base. So a great example is we recently brought in an IT firm that deals specifically with advising and installing and servicing accounting systems. Okay. So it's additive for our clients that need that. It's additive for our internal teams because those internal teams need to be able to understand how those systems work. And from an auditor perspective, we have to look at internal control over financial reporting. That's that system. So I think that makes a big difference. The way that this firm is run, we recently bid farewell to the senior managing partner who, unfortunately, he passed away about a week ago. And another senior managing partner who retired October 31st. So we are
some big change afoot at the top.
Yes, but the people who are at the top have been mentored and groomed to take over and not just do the status quo. We have innovative ideas about how we work with our clients, how we work with our teams internally, and what our desired reputation in the industry is. Who we are as humans is what we want to be as a firm. So you hit on like almost all of the words in our core values and our firm philosophy. So it is, I have it right in front of me because it's on my home screen. Family firm exceeding expectations, and trust, growth, team accountability, and service. Those are driving principles behind Haney. And and it is, we are so much more than just our individual selves. We are a collection of super talented, super smart. We can say all the super words we can, but we are a collection of individuals who are better together. And that is so important because I just signed on a new client. It's my book of business, but I am not the expert in that client. So I have assembled a team where I can maintain the relationship and the team can service it the right way. And I will learn something new, but I'm not expected to know everything. No one should be expected to know everything. And if your accountant or even your lawyer says, I know everything, they're not telling you the truth. No, collaboration is so important. And that's something that I see only happening more and more in the future.
I love that. And that's that kind of to the latter part, right? Is that you see that the the new folks that are taking over in the managing roles aren't just going to take the legacy and just say like, great, this is like, we could just sit back on our laurels, as we used to say, right? They're innovative thinkers. They're entrepreneurial thinkers. They're thinking ahead. They're thinking about the absurdity of saying something like, what are we going to be like for the next 65 years, right? Like the next 65 years is going to outlive you, me, and a lot of the partners. But if the people who
Oh,
are
well, all
taking
of the
it,
partners, I hope.
right? Yeah. I
All
mean, like, so
yeah, the
but
existing partners.
if the folks that are taking charge to have that kind of a vision, right, it does essentially create this legacy ripple effect that just keeps rippling out and carrying forward, which again is not only great for the firm, which I remember when we first started talking about this firm, kind of about a little year ago or so. I was so captivated by how often you, and then as I met a couple of your teammates, like spoke about the employees, the prospective employees, right? How do we recruit new people to come into the firm? Where do we recruit them? Like, what is the culture of that profile like? Like, how do we treat each other? How do we collaborate with each other? What are our innovative visions? You know, what kind of crazy ideas and also just solid ideas do we have? And everybody has that latitude to do that, which is again, like I'm not an expert on CPA firms, but I would humbly say, like, on businesses. And to hear that, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know what this firm was doing 20 years ago, but I can tell you right now, this firm is doing the right things to be relevant in a 2025 to 2050 kind of world, which is really cool. And I've seen it in you as a friend. I've seen it feed, like, renew your energy and enthusiasm for what's possible, and kind of the creative side of my friend Rich, which again is a testament to the company, but the organization must be doing some things right.
Well, I would say for sure. And Rob, we agreed to schedule this, and my thought process was, I'm going to get this done as soon as I get back from our partner retreat. It was so inspiring just being with the other partners and hearing their stories and hearing about the different services that they offer and some of the ideas that we're coming up with. So, like things like an internal expertise guide.
Mm,
So I know that Steve is really smart and Steve's a good auditor, but what does Steve really want to be doing? You know,
mm,
and if you get yourself in the right place at the right time, um, and everything moves forward. If you have the wrong people in the wrong places, you get very stagnant. You have people that want to leave, want to change. And I feel that we are definitely in the right space right now.
yeah.
We work with a consultant who is going to be guiding us on how to be a better, even better firm. How to we don't believe that we are the experts in everything. We know that we need to bring in expertise, whether it's developing new staff or what setting expectations for what makes a partner in this firm, because every
Yeah.
firm's different. Some firms, you need to bring in $2 million worth of business and boom, you're a partner. That's not the way it should work.
Mm,
You've got a skill, you've got talent. You can only bring in $30,000 a year. It's not really what we want or expect. But if you're really, really good at something, we're going to encourage you to keep doing it.
that's
Um,
terrific. And
and our
it's a great harbinger for your clients, right? For the business owners out there, the executives that are running these types of companies, the public companies, growth companies that you work with, to hear that your CPA firm has a growth mindset and values their people and is forward thinking, like that's a wow. That, I mean, that's the kind of stuff you want to hear from your CPA firms, from your legal firms, from your other service providers. That's awesome. That's really,
yeah,
it's got to be. And again, I say this, it's like a rhetorical question because I've heard it from you and I've seen it in you, but it's got to be fun, energizing, as you say, coming back from the partner summit, right? It's got to be fun and energizing to be surrounded by other growth mindset types of people, in your otherwise kind of the day to day of your job. So we've talked a lot about people. I have a question. This is the obvious question. I kind of have to ask it because it seems like I have to ask it of every person that I talk to, no matter what sector or segment or industry of society that they're working in right now. But right, I hear lots of dramatic predictions about how AI is essentially going to eliminate the need for accountants and lawyers, right? Like all the mundane work of the world is going to be replaced by this magical miracle technology. And what I really care about is less what people who are selling it is telling us, and I care more about people like yourself, your opinion. So how from the inside, how do you see a transformative technology like like AI, like artificial intelligence, machine learning? How do you see that kind of changing your profession?
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Shore Capital. In today's venture capital world, it's not just about cash. It's about relationships. Capital is harder to find, limited investors have fewer managers that they can trust, and the industry is just filled with far too much hype. Shore Capital is an early-stage venture fund investing in the world's most ruthlessly iterative founders, helping its limited partners to find founders who are solving the world's most dynamic problems, teams that excel in mastering the idea maze, teams moving with a rapid, iterative velocity and demonstrating radical resourcefulness. Shore Capital doesn't just write checks, though. They become fractional co-founders when needed, offering strategic support, high-leverage relationship development, and a deep commitment to the long-term success of their portfolio companies. If you are a ruthlessly iterative founder with a bold vision or a limited investor seeking sustained access to the brightest big thinkers of our time, Shore Capital wants to meet you. So visit shorecapital.notion.site to learn more.
Well, that's a great question. Let me correct you on one thing. It is, we don't do mundane work. We do exciting work. You just have to get there.
That's how we feel on Tuesday after the partner summit. It's all exciting work.
Well, I got to tell my staff it's all exciting because they're doing the mundane work. No, just kidding.
I love it.
So we actually, as accountants, in particular with auditors and tax, there are repetitive functions. So can AI perform a lot of those? Yes. Does AI have the ability to be as creative as we need it to be? And the answer is no. I mean, the AI can interpret tax law. Are they going to do it correctly? Are we going to trust it? Should our clients trust it? It's one thing to say, okay, AI, make me a video of people dancing with their heads falling off. That's one thing. But to go in and say, okay, I'm going to trust you with my license, you, Mr. AI software, I'm going to trust you with my CPA license to tell me that this invoice matched what was in the general ledger. I can't do that.
Yeah. Not there yet. You're not that comfortable yet.
No. And I don't know if we ever will. What I do know is that we use AI to do things like make sure that columns add up and that the footnote that describes, let's say, accounts receivable, that actually agrees with what the financial statements say. That makes sense. It's like a backstop. It is not the thing that we do. What we do is we as humans, we verify it. The whole thing with being an auditor is that you are verifying that something was done correctly, or reasonably correctly.
As the auditor, you're the intelligence.
Yes, exactly. And we're, would I trust AI to uncover fraud? Not right now. Certainly not right now. I don't know if the technology is there, but AI can create fraud.
Sure.
So, which is actually my bigger fear is the clients using it too much.
Right.
Because if I say, create me a bank statement on Chase's letterhead, here's my account number, here's the date that
Mm,
my statement comes in, but I want you to show that I brought in $1 million more than I did, or that there's $1 million more in the bank, that AI can do.
yeah.
And that's scary to me.
Right.
So,
Sure. No, it should be.
one of the things we used to have to do is everything was paper. We didn't have paperless anything. So if I needed to review 100 sales invoices for my revenue testing, well, there it is. It's right in
Yeah.
front of me. I can touch it.
Right.
I can see that this is this is the pink copy because that's your file copy, things like that.
Yeah.
Now it's like, all right, can you scan that in? Because you're all the way across town. It's going to take me 20 minutes to get to your office.
Yeah.
I don't want to go that far.
Right.
So, well, it was also a COVID thing. So, but, really being able to trust in the system. I'm not there yet with AI. I don't
Yeah.
know if a lot of audit firms are. There's definitely, I mean, like, there's certainly things that can be done, but I
Sure.
don't think
No,
we're
like
there
you
yet.
say, there's some of the repetitive tasks that happen, like systemic stuff, but your professional opinion, expert opinion in your industry is that the technology isn't there yet to match the level of required credibility and reliability that would make you or the CFO who's your client that you're asking, hey, we have to both put our names on this fiduciary statement that we're filing with the government about this transaction. Like, we're not there yet. We're not comfortable enough to say, I'm going to put my license, as you say, your professional credibility, and the CFO is going to put his or her name to the ledger that is like, oh yeah, the AI verified it, right? That's
Right.
good. It's awesome to know.
I think that, will we get there? Probably at some
Sure.
point, but we're not there yet. But as a firm, we are developing our own policies, procedures, things like that to actually make sure that we are complying with our technical requirements as well as keeping pace with the technology that's available to us. So,
Yeah.
I mean, a great example would be, if the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board came in to review our work papers and 90% was done by AI, guess who's not going to have their license very long?
Right. Exactly.
There's such a human function in accounting. It certainly technology has kept pace with certain needs, but certainly, there's a very human touch to it,
No, no, I
and
love
and
that.
that
All
can't
right.
be repeated.
I've got one last, this is a totally personal question between us as friends before we get to our closing segment where we'll close out with a little bit more of an actionable answer question. Um, so I've actually, as I was putting the script together and I was thinking about us and all of our years together and our friendship, I came to this question. I was like, don't think I've ever asked him this point blank question. Like, why do you love what you do so much?
I get to help people. That's the bottom line is that I used to love it for the excitement of the travel and all of that. I don't travel hardly at all. Um, I thought it was always exciting to walk into the CEO of a bank's office as a 24-year-old staff person and say, "All right, so I've got to ask you these fraud questions," and then they would scowl at me. I go running out and I tell my manager, and they would go in and ask the questions. But I love helping our clients out. I love helping out my own team and developing people. It's what excites me. It really is what energizes me. I also really love the feeling of success of bringing in new work. That's a huge thing for me. It validates all of my years of being an introvert and slowly converting to being an extroverted introvert, because I mean, there's no better way to describe it. And so therefore, I am. It's where my passion lies.
That's awesome. It's the simple part, right? It's just the ability to help people, even from just sitting there in your desk in Colorado and not traveling the world. What's today, 2025 version of you and the industry and how the tools you have available to help clients? What's the most fun part?
Um, that's a great question. I the most fun part of my current position is helping my team
Okay, I love that.
and basically training my replacement. You know,
Nice.
I'm old enough and experienced enough that I've kind of seen everything that I kind of want to see.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to see anything worse than what I've seen. I like the better part, but I really I like interacting with my team. I like interacting with the clients. I like bringing solutions to the table, as opposed to just being, okay, well, you got a problem. Well, here's a solution. And Rob, our experience working together, we did that.
Oh,
You know,
100%.
we were able to extract the best ideas, the best approaches,
Yeah.
and I think that, you know, it's evolved into what you're doing now, right? Because it's all about evolution. You know,
100% true.
you if you stay stagnant, you're going to be the guy with the really wide collared shirt who still has his brown tie with 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 stripes on it, and then his shirt with stripes going the other way that's also brown, and your blue shoes and white socks and a green belt. None
That
of
is
those things.
that is definitely not you, nor is it you or I. So I love
No,
that.
but I'll tell you that it was the accountant,
Yep. No, it
and
was.
being the son of an accountant and the son-in-law of an accountant,
You saw it.
I really saw it. Neither of these two gentlemen were anything like that,
No.
but
Yeah, yeah. You had
because
unique
they
personalities.
were the sort of the movers and shakers of their position.
In that
Um,
era as well. But
yep,
still very much more traditional than today or
yep,
than you. Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm not surprised by the answer, although I didn't know how you were going to answer that very personal question. I thank you for being so honest and vulnerable. And it jumped out of you, right? It's like helping people and essentially mentoring and developing people, which is awesome. And it's so fun. You know, that's such a huge part of where I'm at in my life and my career. Hell, that's why I use
yep,
this to do what we do is essentially I still view myself as capturing my knowledge and experience and now yours and putting it out in this form into the world so other people can benefit from it. And that's where I take the greatest satisfaction. Plus, I always learn something new every time I have a conversation with someone, even if it's people I've known as long as I've known you. So thank you for that. All right. So one last question. This is kind of actionable, tactical, maybe a couple of bullet points in an answer. I didn't talk about it a lot because we kind of focused in on a couple different themes, but a lot of companies now, especially probably a lot of the emerging companies, public companies, growth stage companies that you're working with are international, right? Like their staff or manufacturing or shipping or distribution or like there's stuff all over the place, right? So I'm curious, like if a company, this is the question, if a company is either expanding internationally or wants to expand internationally and work with global partners, what are the one or two most important, let's just put it that way, kind of compliance and reporting steps that they should prioritize?
well, I think first of all is having local counsel. So a local attorney who understands the business environment, the business requirements, um, employment laws, you name it. And then having a capable CPA firm to also um, address those things. So, at, for for example, our firm, Haney, is part of a group called Prime Global. Prime Global is an international association of CPA firms. So we have the ability, if you have inventory in China, we have a firm that can go in and count that inventory that we can rely upon for the audit. Um, and my personal experience, and I think that this is where my true love of doing what I do came from, is that when I was with a much, much smaller firm, we had the ability as a 15-person firm to work anywhere in the world. And we were working on an audit. The home office had moved from Scotland to Singapore. They still had Scotland. They had uh, Costa Rica. They had all over Europe. They had people on the ground in Afghanistan.
Wow.
And what we did was we cobbled together our partner firms to perform the audit. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, my phone was next to me and it was always on, and I always had someone working. The sun never sat on our accounting practice.
Right.
And to me, that those local resources are so critical to getting anything done. Whether, even if your CPA firm has offices elsewhere, you still would need that global expertise. And it's
Yeah.
not something that you can just pull out of a hat. You actually have to have it. And so we partner with other firms to make sure that we have it. But I think that that's super important from a global perspective.
Mm.
To the point where we just established a Haney Philippines office. So
Okay.
we had people there, but now we actually have a business there. I think it's about 25 people now. We've got a few partners who um, operate and run it, and they're tremendously talented people. They understand everything, but probably the scariest part to me is the cybersecurity over it. And
Sure.
so if you're working internationally, that's something else that's really, really important.
Really important.
So
That's
how
amazing.
you structure your entity and everything else, super important, but how you structure, so if you're working with a customer service company in India, you know, how do you know that social security number isn't getting misplaced or misused, things like
Right.
that. So we have lots of requirements for that.
No, which that ties back to, right, acquiring an IT firm that can help you with technologies and provide that as a value-added service to the clients. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Buddy, that's it, man. That is our journey today conversationally. I gotta shout it out. This has just been so fun for me. We when we're flying and at our best, we talk pretty often, and when we do talk, we talk in like long conversations because we love to do that, because we love both love each other and we both love to talk. But it's been a kind of a little bit of a challenging year this last year, and so we haven't talked as much. And so selfishly for me, I was super looking forward to this conversation because I knew it was a chance for me to just pin us down and just to be able to get to listen and just talk about, again, I always joke about this right before the show, is like, if I'm doing my job, this is our chance to just be friends talking about stuff we love to talk about. And so this was every bit of that today. So I really, really am grateful for you. Obviously, again, shout out to Haney Corporate and the team, the marketing women, the team in Texas, for having my back and supporting my work and enabling me to keep trying to do this and to keep trying to build these conversations, to keep trying to explore the world of how we think more entrepreneurially about the world we live in. So maybe we leave it a little bit better than we found it. So super grateful for that, obviously. But thanks just to you, buddy, just for spending some time with me today and helping us understand the industry from the inside out.
Well, Rob, I got to tell you, I was so nervous. I was terrified. And then when I saw you on camera, and I had asked you about, what's appropriate to wear and what's not appropriate. Had I really thought about it, I would have worn my shirt that says the H in accountant is for happiness.
Nice. That's
Because
okay. We'll pull that out on a future episode.
it shares my personality,
It
and at the
does.
same time, it very much is what's wrong with the impression of accountants,
100%.
is
And
that they're not happy, they're not doing what they want to do.
but you
So,
are, and you proved that through my grilling, my tough questions that I
oh
ask you.
yeah.
But instead, what we wound up proving that today, the H is for Haney. right? And so
Yes.
we're grateful for that. But quick closeout just to make sure, how can people find or follow Haney? So the websites or any social media addresses. And then if people want to find or follow you, I'm sure they can do so on LinkedIn, obviously. But
Yeah.
give us those details.
So the Haney website is HaynieCPAs.com, and it's spelled HaynieCPAS.com. There you'll be able to learn about all of our services, our different offices, partners and managers. You can find me there, and I believe my LinkedIn profile is linked there as well. Reminds me I should probably update that.
Yes, that's a whole other conversation. But yes, you should.
Yes. but those are our main areas to find us.
Wonderful.
And it's a good springboard for everywhere else that we need to go.
Absolutely. This has been a joy. Thank you so much, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and because it was exactly like us just sitting down and chatting.
See, apparently I'm pretty good at my job. I love it. Thank you.
So if you'll have me back, I'll come back.
100% will. Yes. There's always something to talk about in this end of the business world. So yes.
This is true.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Rob.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did recording it. As always, we thank you so much for listening and watching. Today's show was recorded here in Los Angeles and produced by the incomparable Deanna Bernal in Mexico City. You know, we can only grow this show by you listening and sharing the show with friends. So please find, like, follow, subscribe, and share our audio-only show on Spotify, Apple, or via any other popular podcasting platforms, as well as find the video version of our show now available on our YouTube channel over at Entrepreneurial Thinkers. And of course, you can follow along on our various social media platforms for fun and informative clips and content at Entrepreneurial Thinkers, wherever you can find us. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at I Am Rob Ryan on just about any social media platform. Gracias, thank you, and have an awesome day.